Hello, and welcome to today's live reading of Notebook Mysteries, A Party to Remember by Kimberly Mullins, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue, December 21st, 1889, Chicago. Is it finished, Jeff? The man asked, pacing up and down in a jerky movement behind the other man. Yes, Gregory, it is, Jeff said and closed the trunk. The click signaled the finality of what had been done. Was this one too close to home? Asked Gregory. Yes, but this one is for you, Jeff commented. He slumped in his chair and muttered, For me. For me. Jeff walked to his chair in the dark room. The only lighting was the large Christmas tree in the corner. The candles had been lit, and they cast shadows through the room. He liked the ambiance as he pulled out his cigarette case and chose one to light. Too close? He replied. No, I think it's just right, especially for this group. But why did you have to invite her? Gregory's voice rose to a higher octave. Because we're ready. Gregory turned his gaze from Jeff to the trunk. Are we? He muttered to himself. Chapter 1. A few weeks earlier, December 2nd, 1889. Slam! The door hit the wall and drove snow into the house. Along with the snow came a person, covered from head to toe in frost. They started to brush themselves off, the flurries covering the floor of the foyer. Careful there, Dora said from the sitting room doorway. Sorry about that, Emma said as she pushed the door closed. She stayed where she was and knocked the snow off her boots onto the mat. All the while, she hummed the song, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Now you can sweep that snow back inside, her sister said as she walked over and handed Emma the broom that had become a fixture in the foyer during the winter season. You're festive today, she observed. Emma did as she was told and continued to hum. I am. I can't wait for Christmas. When she finished her task, she looked over at Dora. What are you reading? Dora looked up from the envelope she was holding. An invitation. Really? To what? She walked over to her and looked at the invitation. Jeff and Gregory are having their Christmas party in Chicago this year. And we're invited? Don't they usually have these in New York or Boston? Yes, I believe so. I've always wondered about them. Jeff leaves weeks in advance to get ready and then doesn't return until after Christmas. She studied the invitation. Who else do you think will be invited? Dora held up another envelope. I'm not sure, but this one is for Savannah. Emma frowned and stepped back to take her coat off. Does she know Jeff? She asked as she removed her hat and patted her hair. I'm not sure. We can ask. As for the others, we don't normally travel in the same circles as Jeff. No, he's kept to himself since he moved here. You know, his friend Gregory does come by the accounting office occasionally. I think the last time I saw him was last year when we were doing a final audit of the charity's files. Emma took her gear to the closet to hang them and closed the door. Is he a pianist? She walked back to her sister and took the invitation from her. Yes, and very talented. That might be how he knows Savannah. The sister's friend, Savannah, was currently working at the Columbia Theater as a stage manager. Her parents were actors, and she had grown up in the theater world. That could be, Emma mused. He's never accepted our invitation for charity events. We've tried to include him in them or our parties, but he hasn't shown any interest, Dora commented. He has always contributed, but he doesn't attend, Emma said absently. I wonder why now. He may be doing it to be polite, offered Dora, since he's having it in Chicago. Maybe it's a business invitation? Maybe, she agreed, though she had her doubts. Jeff had never mentioned anything about the parties he held. Do we send in a yes? Dora asked. Let's bring it up over dinner, she suggested. Dora nodded. Are you worried about something? She grinned suddenly and said, Jeremy would say that I'm always worried. It might just be what it looks like, an invitation to a party. Dora laughed and took her arm to go into the dining room. There's something important we should consider. What's that? Dora asked, uneasy. Her sister may have found a reason of concern for the party. What'll we wear? She laughed abruptly and said, We have those dresses from Paris. That's true. They just returned from Paris where Abby, Jeremy's mom had gotten them beautiful dresses. If Savannah and Ethan go, we'll have to help her with the dress. We have some we could modify for her. The dinner hour was fast approaching, and the table needed to be set. Chapter 2. That night. The table was always fuller on Monday than any other day. Savannah and Ethan were there for dinner, as Mondays the theaters were closed for the night so that performers and staff could have a day off. They'd given Savannah the invitation to the party. She opened it as Ethan looked on. The date, she said, frowning, isn't it close to the wedding? Dora said, no, not too much. You're getting married on Christmas Eve, so you'll have a few more days to get ready. Savannah and Ethan shared a glance. He answered for them. We'd like to talk some first. Can we let you know later? That should be fine. We'll give you a few days to let us know, Dora replied. Thanks. I wonder what the hesitation is, thought Emma. Just the proximity to the wedding? Dinner continued with news and food being passed around the table. Jeremy leaned over to Emma and whispered in her ear, any thoughts on the party? You know me so well, she teased. I find it odd we were invited, but it's just a party, drinks, dinner, dressing nice. What's not to like? He didn't smile back. Instead, he frowned and turned back to his dinner. What was that about? She thought. Chapter 3. Ethan and Savannah on a walk around the neighborhood later that night. Savannah, Ethan turned to her and pulled her to a stop. Will you be okay around Gregory? She glanced over at him. He hasn't been around for a while. Yes, but is that because of the talk you had with him last time he performed at the theater? We were friends. At least I thought we were until he overstepped. Should I have spoken to him for you? He didn't like her being alone with that man. No, I didn't want to make it more than it was. She shivered a bit when she remembered Gregory's intense stare and his statement of feelings for her. Ethan saw her shiver and asked, Are you cold? Should we go in? No, I was just thinking about that night. When I told him about you, he broke a vase against a wall. He seemed a bit unstable. You didn't mention that, Ethan said and gripped her hand tightly. She grimaced. Ow, you're hurting me. I'm sorry, he said and loosened his grip. Why didn't you tell me? Because his whole demeanor changed after that and he apologized immediately. Has he acted like that before? He's an artist and you know they can be temperamental. But this seemed more than that. I didn't even know he liked me until that night. He never asked me out before. Would you have gone with him if he had asked before we met? No, I don't think so. We didn't have that kind of relationship. At least I didn't think we did. We can send our regrets, he suggested. What if this is an olive branch, a way to apologize? It might be, he allowed. Okay, we can go if your parents don't mind us being away. Her parents had arrived for the wedding and had planned to spend time with them. I'll check with them tomorrow. They should be at the theater. We can confirm after you talk to them. Columbia Theater the next day. Savannah walked around with her clipboard, monitoring the rehearsal. She wore all black to make herself invisible to the audience from the wings. Stagehands were in place and ready to pull the curtains for the next scene. Others were up in the fly system adjusting the scenery that needed to be flown in for each scene. The property master and his crew were assigned to furniture and props, but as stage manager, she liked to do a final check before they were moved onto the stage. Savannah. She turned to the voice and saw her parents standing there. They'd been expected, especially since they had parts in the play currently under rehearsal. Once the play was in good shape and it proved successful, it would be moved to the road for tours throughout the U.S. Mom, Dad, your scenes are coming up, she reminded them as she looked down at her clipboard and checked the call sheet. We're going on soon, her dad said, adjusting his tie. It's nice to be a supporting character this time, commented her mother as she patted her hair. More free time, her father grinned as he walked over to her and leaned in to kiss Savannah's cheek. Her mother continued, and I like that we'll be in town for the entire month of December. With the wedding coming up, we want to spend all the time we can with you. Guilt settled in on Savannah. She pursed her lips and said, I wanted to talk to you about that. Is there something wrong? Her mother asked. No, not really. It's just that Ethan and I've been invited to a party a few days before the wedding. I didn't want you to be left on your own. Her mom looked at her dad before responding. Well, I think that's taken care of. What do you mean? Savannah asked with a frown. Her dad pulled out a familiar envelope. We received this last night. You got an invitation? Why? We don't know. We haven't socialized with either of the hosts before. Of course, we know Gregory in passing. We were going to send our regrets, but now that we know you're going, it could be fun. It might be. I think this is kind of a business party. We know Gregory from here, and the people at the boarding house work with Jeff. We're all invited. Such an odd group to have at a party, thought Savannah.